evening, ladies. Now we're starting to learn about Pesach because Pesach is coming closer and there's so much to learn. And instead of just learning the week before Pesach, I thought to myself that it's better to learn already in advance so you can learn more and more and more halachic things and things to understand more about the holiday itself. And we're going to start now, Bezrat Hashem. By the time Pesach comes, we'll be ready, full of understanding about what is this thing we're about to go through, and it, Bezrat Hashem, will make our Chag so much more meaningful. I wanted to start about the Shabbat before Pesach. The Shabbat before Pesach, it's called Shabbat Hagadol, which means the great Shabbat. And the obvious question to ask is, why is this Shabbat called the great Shabbat compared to other Shabbatot? So in the Talmud it says something very interesting. It says, "Ilmale shamru Yisrael shte Shabbatot miyad nigalim," which means if the nation of Israel would have kept 2 Shabbatot, would have kept Shabbat twice, then they would have been redeemed right away, instantly. Mashiach would have came immediately if only the entire nation of Israel would have kept Shabbat twice. And first of all, that is a very interesting thing to say. But then the sages go a little deeper and they say, we're not talking about just random 2 Shabbatot, there are 2 specific Shabbatot. The first Shabbat is the great Shabbat that comes right before Pesach. And the second Shabbat is Shabbat Tshuva, which is the Shabbat before Yom Kippur, before the Day of Atonement. And they're saying something very interesting. They say, every kind of spiritual light, every kind of spiritual illumination that Hashem wants to bring to the world, He draws to the world through Shabbat, which means for every following week, all the spiritual strength, all the spiritual light that Hashem brings to this world for this week, He draws it through the Shabbat beforehand, and then it comes to the week. So basically, all the lights of Pesach are drawn to this world through the Shabbat before Pesach. And all the lights of Yom Kippur, they're drawn to this world through the Shabbat before Yom Kippur. So these 2 Shabbatot are very, very special. And they say we need those 2 Shabbatot. Why? Because there are 2 levels and ways that we need to keep Shabbat. It says, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kodsho, which means remember the day of Shabbat and sanctify it. And Shamor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kodsho, which means guard it, keep Shabbat or guard Shabbat and sanctify it. So there are 2 things we need to do with Shabbat. We need to remember Shabbat, and we need to guard it and keep it and guard it. And in a way, these are 2 levels of following Hashem. When we're supposed to keep Shabbat, guard Shabbat, be careful not to do anything that is forbidden on Shabbat. It's kind of more like following Hashem out of awe. It's kind of like being careful not to do things that are forbidden, things that are not allowed from the Torah, and we're being careful to do it exactly as Hashem wants. It's more connected to the part of us following Hashem out of awe. On the other hand, we have following Hashem out of love. And that is Zachor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kodsho, which means remember the day of Shabbat. Feel all that you need to feel on the day of Shabbat. When we say Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, if we know that guard Shabbat, it's more like to keep Shabbat, to do all the halachot, to do exactly what is allowed and what's forbidden on Shabbat. To remember Shabbat is to give the Shabbat this extra value. It's to wear those nice clothes. It's to make this delicious food. It's to clean the house and and put the beautiful tablecloth on the table. That is remember Shabbat, which means make Shabbat meaningful. Elevate Shabbat to the spiritual level that it's supposed to be. So Zachor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kodsho, when we remember Shabbat, when we remember how holy it is and we bring it to our lives, that is more how we follow Hashem out of love. And then they say, these are those 2 Shabbatot. The Shabbat before Yom Kippur, that draws the lights for Yom Kippur. It is the Shabbat that draws the light of our connection to Hashem, but kind of out of awe. Because on Yom Kippur we try to be holy, we try to be like the angels, we don't eat, we don't drink, we don't wear clothes that have leather. We're so careful and we don't want to have any sins, and we follow Hashem out of awe. But on the other hand, we have Pesach. On Pesach we celebrate our love between us and Hashem. We celebrate how Hashem chose us among all other nations. And He took us to be His people. And He chose us out of Mitzrayim, and He saved us. And He made this covenant between us and Him. So this is the Chag in which we celebrate the connection and the love we have to Hashem. So this Shabbat before, it draws this power, these lights for Pesach. So we have those two things, following Hashem out of awe and out of love. And when we follow those two Shabbatot, those two ways to follow Hashem, this is when Mashiach will come. Thank you for joining me for another evening of learning. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to move on next evening. Bye.